Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sheila Brooks as our 2022 keynote speaker.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Mr. Ricky Hall, Vice President of Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity, Mr. Paul Metellus, co-chair of this historic occasion, and to all the committee members who worked tirelessly on this year's Black graduation. I am so thrilled to be here today for the first in-person, I understand, graduation ceremony in 3 years with the undeniable, sensational, and unstoppable class of 2022. Congratulations to all of you. I applaud you. I'm truly humbled and honored to be your keynote and commencement speaker tonight with the Black graduation in Kente ceremony. It's going to be a joyous tribute to graduates. I want you to know that I stand before you with tremendous admiration and respect. And as I look out at all of you, your families and your loved ones, I'm just so proud and grateful and thankful to see how far we've all come. The class of 2022 steps out in a world that is rapidly changing how we work, how we think, and ultimately how we define and pursue success. Without a doubt, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic is the tipping point for a new normal. COVID challenged us from the start, some 15 months ago, but we did not despair because we are resilient. Together we persevere through these uncertain times and what lies ahead. Black like we never left. And as we navigate through this global health crisis, let's honor all of you and your tradition of history and activism. You come from generations of people who knew how to overcome insurmountable odds. And now you are uniquely positioned with a culture of values and beliefs and a college education so that you can renew your way of thinking to make a tremendous difference in this world, and to be a role model for all the others that are coming along. Black like you never left. The impact on your service to the community, it doesn't stop here when you leave the University of Washington. Generations that will follow you, and yes, those of us who came before you, we're counting on all of you, because you have African-American culture and heritage that you can take forth in ways that no one else can. Your college experience over the past 4 years has prepared you for this journey. You are our next generation, Black like we never left. So you will face some challenges that perhaps will be more prominent than they were at the beginning of your college studies or during the pandemic. But you must steadfastly focus your talents and your priorities on the brave new world, our new normal, the transition to home-based work environments, new technologies and innovations, your power to influence policy, diversity in the workplace and in schools, dedication to carry the mantle against racism and continue to fight the anti-Black violence, and so much more. That's going to be your launching pad to the greatness that you will become. You must change the narrative and make it happen. Believe this new journey with the ability to believe in yourselves and begin it immediately. You want to develop the mindset of winners. Define your destiny and never let anyone do that for you. Be tireless in your efforts, not only to give back to your community, but relentless in your journey to contribute, strengthen, and enhance your professional growth. Not only yours, but that of others, personally and professionally. You know, so often young people leave college, they chase the money. But I'm telling you to be encouraged to follow your passion. Chase the vision. Use your talents and your gifts, and you will be able to do whatever it is that you want to do in life, leading you to success. And then when you use that creativity and that imagination, and you use your knowledge and reimagine the vision, then you will see that the money will follow you. This changing work world and unpredictable economy will force you to make quick decisions and to take some calculated risks. And though the journey can be weary, what happens along the way is what makes you emerge even stronger than ever. You know, I know that all too well. Throughout my life and career, time and time again, I've pivoted, reinvented myself, re-engineered my career and the business. My story is one of resilience, determination, perseverance, and courage that goes a long way back before I became an entrepreneur and a journalist, and it is a story that made me who I am and what I stand for today. Our experiences define who we are, and my mother in heaven paved that way for me. As a divorced mother who became a single parent, she raised my younger sister and me from the ages of 2 and 1 in a very low-income neighborhood in Kansas City, Missouri, during the height of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. She was resilient, having to overcome struggles of her own childhood. Her mother died when she was only 7 years old, leaving her grandmother to raise her. She was a courageous woman with grit, commitment, passion, who tired of picking cotton at the young age of 13 during the Great Depression in 1930. And one day, she decided that she was going to leave her grandmother's farm in Mississippi in search of a new life, new beginnings. Her journey would become my legacy. My mother guarded her daughters fiercely during the civil rights movement, busing us across town to better schools to get a better education, shielding us as much as she could from the violence of rioting while working 2 full-time jobs as a maid and a licensed practical nurse, refusing to accept welfare. Anger overcame me, and that happened most of my life during those times. Racism swelled our communities, our schools, and our lives. The absence of a father taunted me for so many years to come. And it was all that adversity that made me a more determined and a more independent person. What I didn't know then, what became clear to me over the years, is that to overcome insurmountable odds, you must have a clear vision and purpose in life. What I couldn't see then, my mother always did. She taught us that we could be and do whatever it was that we wanted to do in life. She instilled in us a sense of self-esteem, work ethic, a strong faith-based foundation, and an appreciation for education. I learned then that the value of education, because I became the first generation in my family to get a college education. It was my mother's sacrifices that prepared me for success, first as a journalist and now as an entrepreneur. But through it all, I persevered. I learned then when I was very young that I was driven to succeed. I learned that success is more likely when the primary goal is the passion to create something of value. My professional dreams of being a journalist and an entrepreneur started with vision and with goals. And so you see in your career and in your life, your goals must engage you, move you, inspire you, incite you to action. You must have those goals in you, breathing them throughout your body every day. You must get up in the morning with them and take them to sleep with you in the evening. You have to allow your goals to give you clarity of purpose. My goals began with my vision and purpose in life to be the best that I could be, to control my own destiny. I had a keen sense of self-empowerment. Like the time I transferred here to the University of Washington in Seattle in the 1970s, knowing that it would be very difficult for me to find a job in television news right out of college. Here I was in a major market. So I took this unpaid internship my senior year at KCTS-TV Channel 9, still located right here on campus. And following that internship, I got an entry-level job there for a year, was then promoted to a reporter and producer, and I worked full-time reporting job by day. I studied for a master's degree at Seattle University by night. I worked on weekends as a news anchor at the Black radio station, KYAC, freelanced for the Black newspaper, freelanced for the local radio station, the network station. And then 3 years later, I finally got that big break, and King TV said, "We want to send you to our sister station in Spokane, Washington." Really? They just said, "It's the CBS affiliate, it's a wonderful opportunity." And I said, "Well, I don't know about that." But then they gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. I was going to cover the state of Washington's first Black mayor. I was going to be the first Black reporter and anchor in that town. And then I spent 3 years there covering stories that brought me face to face with even more racism and even more adversity. You see, it was the 1980s. Following that, I took some TV news stints in College Station, Texas, and Dallas, Texas for another 5 years. And then the big job came calling in Washington, D.C. I spent a couple of years as an executive producer of the documentary unit there at a local station, launched one of the first morning shows in the market, and made a move from being on the air into management. But then I realized I could no longer make a difference in the newsroom. I resigned and I started my own business, and I've never looked back. Now, do you remember that new way of thinking that I shared with you earlier that you will need to bring into this changing world that we live in? Well, it was that kind of imagination that was key to making the commitment to focus and to have the confidence to start a business. For 13 years, I'd worked so hard in newsrooms, making what I believe were all the right moves, decisions so that I could have a good career, and they were. But I realized to advance that I needed to contribute to a greater purpose in life. And when I started my business in 1990, I started it in the 3rd bedroom of my home. I had a $15,000 loan from my husband, and yes, it took me some time, but I paid him back. I worked long hours, the contracts weren't coming in, I didn't pay myself a salary the first year, and what kept me going was the belief that if I kept my eye on the prize and didn't quit, whatever the odds were, I could have achieved what I wanted to achieve. You see, it's in your pain that you find your power. And you know what's so sweet about that? I was really right, because my intention to succeed drove me to succeed. And after 18 years in the production business, I built a $1 million broadcast facility in Washington, D.C., downtown, just blocks from the White House. Oh, it was grand, a great soundstage studio, several editing suites, a large staff of about 14, a facility that rivaled many of the TV stations in towns. How proud I was. But then the recession happened in 2008. We lost millions of dollars in television production and federal government contracts overnight. The media world had changed. The digital revolution was evolving. The equipment got smaller and cheaper. We were editing on laptops, and our television news clients, Fox TV and America's Most Wanted, ABC, BET, they start buying reality shows. They didn't want what we were selling, long-form original programming and news documentaries for TV anymore. And I had to make some tough decisions. I was faced with two options: shut the business down after 18 years and call it a victory, or do what entrepreneurs do, take the calculated risk, pivot. And so I reinvented myself once again, pivoted, re-engineered the company, sold 80% of all of that equipment, moved to smaller office space, laid off employees, dropped to my knees. But I survived. My vision helped us survive the recession in an uncertain economy. And what I learned then was a very, very important lesson that you have to take with you. Tough times don't last forever. Tough people do. So I picked myself up, brushed myself off, took the pen to paper, decided to take the company in a different direction. And in the past 14 years, we've evolved from that production company into an award-winning full-service advertising, marketing, and PR firm. The contracts are larger, they're multi-year, the retainers are good, and we are still storytellers. We're not telling stories in news anymore or in production, but we're telling stories in advertising and marketing and PR campaigns. We're fully staffed again, 10 full-timers, 4 part-timers, a half a dozen subcontractors. Because you see, the power of resilience is having the ability to withstand, adapt to, and recover from adversity and disruptive life changes. When the going gets tough, you have to be able to not only understand, but to accept the inevitability of change and those occasional setbacks. Resilience creates an environment of opportunities and possibilities, new perspectives where strategies are created to overcome barriers. Resilience is an important characteristic that you must have as you leave the classroom and start your careers. It's one quality that is especially needed to adapt to these tough economic times ahead. So when times are tough, you will have to react much the same way as I did. You'll have to tighten your budgets, whether you do that personally or professionally. You'll have to streamline your operations and look for new opportunities to ensure that you remain competitive in the marketplace. Because we know that what the truth is, nobody gets to be a success on their own. To whom much is given, much is required. So as you start your careers, use the power of innovation. It is a common knowledge that revolutionary ideas become a successful and profitable vision and strategy. Have a clear destination and clear pathways to get there. Because in this increasingly demanding world of technological changes, a world that relies on the internet and digital media tools, you must acquire as many skills as you can. More often than not, it's your ingenuity that will create opportunities that are going to result in your success. So I can't tell you enough. Plan to plan, plan your work, and work your plan. Be the risk taker, the gutsy type, as I like to call it. Have the fire in the belly, as well as the brains in your head. Show that you do have leadership skills to be close to the action, and then, no doubt, you will execute your personal vision. Know that critical issues face visionaries like yourselves. With every accomplishment come continuing changes on a regular basis. Each of us has our own way of dealing with those changes, that adversity that comes into our life. One thing for sure, when things become unhealthy, uncertain, for me, I look at the talents and the gifts that I have, and you will have to do the same on your journey. Like the time when I left the race-lined neighborhoods of Kansas City, Missouri in the 1970s, vowing never to return but to see my mother, or the time when I was at the top of my profession in the local news, TV news in the media capital of the world, Washington, D.C., or when I stepped out on faith to start my own business. By the way, that business will be 32 years old in 2 weeks. You see, I always know when it's time to move on, when things become unhealthy. I tend to rely on my faith because I let my faith do for me what I can't do for myself. I've learned how to accept the outcome of situations and consider them to be the will of a higher power. So I say to you, be vigilant in your work. Your commitment to helping others should be as strong as your commitment to succeed. Continue to give selflessly and stay connected to your faith, your family, and your community. Touch the lives of someone else. Support the bridge that brought you across. Pass your knowledge and wisdom on to generations to come. As I watch those I mentor excel and see their abilities, I am filled with joy and gratitude for the opportunity to be of service. Since I left the University of Washington, I teach a new generation of leaders every day, Black like I never left. And throughout my life, all I've ever wanted to do was to contribute to a greater purpose and make a difference, and to do the right thing, impact lives, mentor others, and leave a legacy. I say to you, continue to fight the good fight. Now more than ever, you must stand against racism and find a way to break down those barriers. Yes, it is a journey, but you have to be constant, unwavering, steadfast, consistent. Keep on working, always abounding. Be deliberate in thought, intentional in action. You will always get back what you give. I leave you tonight with this. In the words of Harriet Tubman, the greatest freedom fighter of all times, every dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. Be Black like you never left. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you. Congratulations.